Greetings, everybody. Father Leo here, and I am responding to a request to speak about or have a reflection around the experience of the death of a pet. And as you can see here in my arms is my little pet. He's known as Ginger. Ginger, he's a beautiful little cat. He's a feral cat, and slowly but surely over the years we've built up a relationship. And he is a cute little son of a gun, and I love him very dearly. And yeah, I often wonder, I've had him for 11 years. He's had me for 11 years. And I think we've got along pretty well, right, Ginger? Yeah, I think you have. I think the big thing I hold in my heart about Ginger is the fact that in some ways he's got into my heart and opened my heart to feel love, to feel the love that I have for him, but to feel the love I have for people, nature, God, whatever you want to call it. But it's all one. And little Nate, put your head up here, little fella. Let me get a look at you. You're so beautiful. Yeah, you're such a beautiful little guy. But I know you're camera shy, and that's understandable, little feller. Oh, you're going to look at the camera? Anyway, I think I better put him down so that I can talk to you more readily. Okay, Ginger? You want to go down? Hey, you want to go down, little guy? Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good, Ginger. He's been my dear friend for 11 years. And particularly when Audrey was here now, my sister, well, there's the two of us. But then when she moved out and passed away, then of course I was alone here. But I wasn't alone because I had a really, really good friend. And that really, really good friend is Mr. Ginger. Hey, Mr. Ginger. Okay, I'm going to put you down, Mr. Ginger. You don't want to go down now after I couldn't get you up. Now you want down. Oh, my gosh. Go on. Go on, you. Get. Get. Ah, yes. Anyway, I'll just go ahead anyway and talk about the grief of a pet. And I think that's really important that we realize that it's not just grieving losses of one kind or another. There is also the sense of grieving the death of a companion. And after all, a pet we have, be it a dog or a cat, or it could be any kind of other pets, they become a loving companion on life's journey. And they are the ones that really love us unconditionally. And I think the stronger the love that we have for them, the greater the pain when they die or pass on. I think the greater the pain, there's some kind of an equation between the strength and depth of the love and the strength and the depth of a grief. And certainly the grief is a very big part of it. And we give our hearts to little pets, and they give their hearts to us. And so it's a viable love relationship that's like no other. And certainly I know that well from my experience of and when a pet passes, then of course it is a traumatic experience. It is trauma. And it often leaves a big void in our heart. And in that void we experience the loss, the pain, the grief, the sorrow, and what ifs and what onlys. It's so similar. It's so similar, or well, maybe it is. I was going to say the same thing when a friend dies, a man or woman. And yet maybe it's even deeper. I have a faint suspicion it's even deeper than that when it is an animal, because they become our pet, and there's so much that's so comforting, and to be loved unconditionally. I know some people do find a soulmate where they do feel they're loved unconditionally, and there's no doubt about it. Now, when it comes to the actual death of a pet, I have here, and I can speak about my own grief. When I was a little boy, about 5, my big brother went and he got me a present, and the present was a little golden-haired pup. And I fell in love with that pup, and the pup grew into a big dog. And the relationship between me and that dog was one of deep, deep love. I never really, well, I knew that dog was everything to me, and he certainly showed he was everything to me. So I was about 5 or 6 when I got that dog. Every day I came home from school, he would come to meet me, running to meet me. We would hang out together till I went to bed, and then again in the morning. But he was always with me, always. As I worked away around the farm, he was always with me as a companion, a beloved companion. And after about, I guess I was 5 or 6, I guess maybe when I was 10, I come home from school one day, and he didn't come running to greet me. I went looking for him. I couldn't find him. So I went to bed thinking, well, he just gone somewhere, but he'll be back. Next day, same thing. Come home from school. He didn't come running to meet me. Couldn't find him. And it was only later that evening that my big brother, who had given me that dog, and his name was Pal, I called him Pal because he was my pal. And later that evening that he told me, my big brother, that he'd been hit with a car and my pal had died. And I can still remember, I was confused and overwhelmed. Just didn't know what to do. How do you cope with this? The love of my life was no more. And I remember crying. I shed tears night after night. I remember lying in bed and crying my eyes out because I no longer had Pal as a companion. And I was saying, I'm going to show you a picture here. This is a picture taken after Pal had grown up, and he's sitting on the hood of the car, and just shows the two of us there with our arms around each other, and he's there so happy to be in my arms, and I'm so happy to have him in my arms. And so you can see him there a little bit anyway. That was my first dog. That was my first dog. My second one, Tina, below. Again, same kind of a thing. So, you know, I know personally the grief, the pain, the sorrow, that's all a part of that. And I think the other thing I really need to say to you, so often the people in the West here have had the idea that, yeah, humans have life after life, but animals really don't count. And that's a bad attitude, very negative attitude. If there's reason for us to have life after life, then I believe that animals have life after life. And also I know very strongly that my first pet, Pal, he lives in my heart, and I can get in touch with him any day I want to. Whenever I look at that picture, I get a sense of Pal, and his lives in my heart, and the experience is love. And that's how I know he's with me. He is within me. And maybe it'll be like that for all eternity, that we will be together in love and experience each other in love. Because there's no doubt in my mind that animals, there's life after life. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Science tells us that energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And a little dog, little cat, whatever the pet, they are the little field of energy. And when they pass on, that energy is transformed. It morphs into a new life. A new life. Now, this side of the grave, we're not able to really comprehend that, but at least we can live with the reality. And hopefully living with that reality, that although he may be dead in his body, that the spirit of that little dog or little cat is still very much alive in a new way. And so I think that's a big part of, that's really helped me through that painful time when my little dog pal died, and it was so traumatic for me. Excuse me, I have a way of sneezing in the morning. Anyway, I remember Elizabeth Kubler-Ross made herself famous when she wrote her book on death and dying, and she wrote about the stages of grieving. And it's normal, and very, very normal, to grieve the death of anyone, person or pet. Person or pet. And for example, she talks about the if I sneeze again, I'm going to scrub this video and do another one. Anyway, the first one is denial. The first stage of grieving is denial. Denial. This cannot be. This is not. I'll wake up tomorrow and it'll be all right. So it's a normal part of the grieving process to deny. And we would point out it's important not to deny my grief. To find ways and means to manage my grief. To manage it. So that I can live with some kind of a sense of oneness and unity with the pet who has died. And that would be a time where we move from denial to acceptance, and there's peace. There is peace in our heart. So I think that's a big part of it. Denial. The next one, of course, is anger. And she put this down as a pretty normal stage of grieving. It can be a simple anger that arises, why did this have to happen? It's, how did my pet die? I mean, the thing that really struck me with my pal was he died by getting hit with a car. And I could think the pain that must have been his. And I often wonder, did he die instantly? Or did he live in the ditch there and died slowly? And the pain? And yeah, there's anger with the fact that asking the question why and how, or by accident, by incurable disease, or an illness. So to see our pets suffering and not being able to do anything about it, we can experience anger. Experience anger. So denial and anger. Then there's bargaining. You know, I was thinking of when my little dog pal died, the bargaining. If only I had tied him up at night, he would not have been wandering on the highway. If only I had made sure he was locked in the barn where he'd be safe. If only. I wish I had him. And that bargaining, and that's normal again, to find ourselves bargaining. Could I have done more? Should I have done more? Ought to have done more. So there's a lot of thinking runs through my mind when I'm grieving. A lot of thinking. There's a lot of thoughts. And there's thoughts which very often bargaining. Anything I could do to prevent this from happening. Anything I could do to prevent it. And maybe my mind will come up and say, well, if you had done this or had done that, then this would not have happened. So bargaining is a big part of the grieving process. The next one, too, is depression. It's a loss. And when there is a loss, of course, there is a deep sadness, a sense of helplessness because I'm in a bad situation and I can't do anything about it. And to feel helpless, to feel there's no answer, there's no pill to take that will make this all right. And so that's part of what goes through here with the depression. And again, I have to say, like a lot of depression, it's to recognize that it's part of the grieving process. And since it's a grieving process, I'll work my way through the depression. I will. So it's not to say that all of those stages of grieving are going to be in that order, but we might experience some of them, or one or two of them, maybe all of them. Who knows? It's different for everybody, but it's healthy to grieve, to cry on somebody's shoulder, to have a ceremony. I just recently attended a family who a little dog had died, and they had put together a wonderful service, a prayer service, a memorial, a remembering of stories, the cherishing, and it was all there. And how healing that was for the people. So when some human dies, we have a celebration of life to help us with our grieving. So when a pet dies, why not a celebration of life around that pet? And that can be a powerful, powerful healing experience if we indeed do some kind of a memorial service, and even perhaps an internment, where in a special place we bury the pet and mark where the pet has died, you know? And animals are not throwaways. They're not throwaways. They are our beautiful companions. And many of them teach us how to experience unconditional love. And by doing that, we learn and we grow in our ability to love other people, to love the earth, to love the environment, to love animals. It's all one. It's all tied in together. It's not separate. It's all tied in together. And of course, the last stage that Kubler-Ross talked about was acceptance. It doesn't mean forgetting, not at all. So we don't forget when there is acceptance, but at this stage, you feel like life is becoming normal again. And you may even consider adopting another pet, although people really struggle with that one because they feel the first pet was everything, and they don't think they want to replace that. Well, some people do, some don't. It's whatever you feel like it. But nevertheless, it's important. But the acceptance, and I think the acceptance is where we're now at peace. And maybe from what I've said today, it may help just to remember that as we say there's life after life for humans, there is life after life for animals. There is. How that is for either one, we don't know. But we do know there is life after life. And for humans, we call it heaven, whatever that is, and I really don't know. Is there any reason why animals, their spirit, would not also experience heaven? I can see that very clearly, and I'm very comfortable with it. I believe that my little dog pal is experiencing heaven, whatever it is. But I know that one thing is for sure, I don't forget him, as you can see. I've never forgot
my first pet. There was a love there that was so deep and strong. And then the flip side of that, of course, was the pain of loss, the grief, the tears, the sorrow, um, feeling things had come to an end. But eventually, by talking about it, celebrating life, being willing to be in touch with my feelings and to talk out those feelings, that eventually, just by osmosis, there comes acceptance. But acceptance is good, but it's not forgetting. It's still having a sense that I hold my pet in my heart. Hold my pet in my heart. We're still companions. And he as a or she as a companion continues to live in my heart. And I can make reference to him anytime I want to, because I know that he loved me very deeply. I loved him very deeply. And love is eternal. Love is forever. So for those who are grieving, I think to keep in mind the stages that Kubler-Ross has outlined, having actions and rituals play a big part in the healing. And it's not in the sense to forget our pet, but rather to enrich a great memory and allow that great memory to be a new source for our humanity. Because keep in mind, there's the animals, the 4-legged ones, and there are the 2-legged animals. And that's us. We're still very much an animal. A rational animal, right. But we're still an animal. And so we should be able to connect with other animals and they with us, and to enrich their life and they enrich our life. So those are the thoughts I have. And I hope in some way they're helpful for those who are grieving the death of a pet, be it a dog or a cat or whatever that particular and may have been for you.